Hola, Vorian familia. Creo que di gracias muchas para following, sharing, liking, subscribing, listening to the podcast and following me along this path that we've started for a year now. I want to take a moment and just say thank you. And if you haven't followed, share, commented, listen, or subscribe, please go ahead and do that. And I really truly appreciate your feedback. So don't be shy to reach out to me either on any of the social medias or emailing me and telling me what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right, what more I should do and what I should do less of. I would truly appreciate it. All right, let's get into the question of the day. True or false? An injured worker is 28 times less likely to have a spinal surgery if the first provider they contacted is a chiropractor rather than a surgeon. The answer will be at the end of the main event. Enjoy. Hey y'all, I hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of Healthcare Boulevard. This is a podcast where we shine more light on healthcare, and our goal here is to provide more options to people looking to choose healthcare as a career path, regardless of their background. My name is Sena Kapomo, and I am your host and creator here. I thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Remember, you can tune in on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Audience, welcome. Good morning. It is Sunday over here, but I have no idea when you will hear this. So I'm going to say good morning. We are here for another interview. I have another chiropractor here today, which I'm very excited to get in with him and learn about him and his professional journey. So let me welcome him in and get this thing started, shall we? Joshua, how you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, Sanan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course. Do you prefer Josh?
Yeah, Josh was fine.
Okay, it reminds me of Joshua Tree. That's what I'm like, Joshua.
Oh, it's one of my favorite
Have
national
you been
parks.
to Joshua Tree?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay, good. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm a chiropractor. I've been practicing for about a year now. Like you, I graduated in 2020 amid all the mess and everything. So it's been a very, very busy year since I first got out of school and have started practicing. So currently I'm involved working in 3 different places right now. First one is a pretty high volume setting. That's my primary place of practice right now. Mm-hmm. So, it's pretty quick adjustments. I'll treat patients in about 5 to 10 minutes. So it's pretty fast.
Right. So when you graduated, what was the job finding and board certification like?
Okay, so while you're in school, most students complete all these boards while they're in school, but a few will have a couple to wrap up afterwards. I actually had 5 national board exams to pass before I can sit for the state licensing exam. There is one that some states require, but other states don't. California, of course, requires the PT boards. Not every state will require that, but it's a lot of exams. And then once you pass all 5 of your boards, then you can sit for the state licensing exam, which is like an ethics and jurisprudence, so legal stuff.
Okay, so the boards, are those tests that you're taking with the school, or are those also national tests?
It's a national test.
Really? So you're taking 5 different, is that for the case for every chiropractor, or is that different for you for other reasons?
That's going to be the case for every chiropractor in the US. Like I said, the 5th one is some states require the PT boards, some don't. But most will at least require, parts 1 through 4 of the other, the main boards.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. I'm like collecting number of exams that professionals have to take. And yesterday I was interviewing a respiratory therapist, and he had told me he had to take 3 board exams. And I was telling him how he had topped my number thus far, but you just came in and took the Emmy away. I was like, 5 is a lot.
You get kind of used to it after a while. It's a lot of testing.
Yeah, it is. And then after that, you sit for the state board.
Right. And so then you get your license from the state.
Okay, so you essentially took 6 tests to be able to call yourself a chiropractor in California.
That's right.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot.
It is. So especially with the COVID and you graduating in the middle of it and having to take all that test, how was the job finding market for you?
It was pretty easy, to be honest.
Yeah, good.
There is a big demand for chiropractors right now, even in a saturated state like California. There's just a lot of patients out there who are looking for this kind of care and not enough chiropractors to serve them right now. So for me, there's plenty of opportunity out there right now. Even as a fresh new graduate, there are plenty of people knocking at the door.
Yeah, no, I feel that struggle. I too am essentially employed with like 3 or 4 different people right now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. And I still have people like, oh, are you still interested? I'm like, if I had more hours in the daytime, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a healthcare professional.
It really is. For better or worse, right? It's still a very stressful time, but as far as job opportunity, there's plentiful. But that's interesting. So you graduated, you started working. Let's reverse a little bit and talk about your educational journey getting into chiropractic school.
Okay, so I have a bachelor's degree. I did a double major in leadership studies and biology. So the science background, of course, was very helpful to get into school. Not every school actually requires you to have a 4-year bachelor's degree, but you will need almost a bachelor's degree worth of classes to qualify. So you may not need a 4-year degree, but you should check with whatever schools you want to apply to. Then you can see what courses are required, and you may be able to still get in even without completing a 4-year degree. After that, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I worked for a couple of years in New York City, doing a few different jobs, and eventually chiropractic found me through a chiropractor I was seeing. She saw that some potential in me to be a good chiropractor, I guess, and so she told me I should check it out, the profession, and visit her school and everything. And so I managed to fly out to visit her school. It was up here in Hayward, California. It's called Life Chiropractic College West. And that weekend when I was there, I just fell in love with the program. They told us all about chiropractic, what it does for people. And, I had been on the patient side before and had good experiences as a patient, but hadn't considered it until I visited the school as a profession. So a good note for a lot of prospective students is if you're interested in becoming a chiropractor or not sure exactly what that will mean, a lot of these schools may actually pay for your flights and lodging if you go to a different state. I came all the way from New York City to California. They paid for my flight or gave me a good credit for it at least. And they also put me up while I was there for a few days.
Wow.
So they try to make it easy for you to come visit and see the schools.
Right. Oh, that's good to know. That's really good to know. I wouldn't have thought that for sure. And if you were to describe a chiropractor to somebody who, like you, may not have heard of it at that time, what would you say?
If I was going to make it really simple, I like to tell people I'm someone who helps unleash the body's potential. So basically, we check the body and find areas where things are not functioning the way they're supposed to, and we help improve the function of the whole body as a whole. So everything's all connected, of course. So we, the way we treat the body is mostly through a joint restriction. So we'll find areas where things are stuck in the body and they're not moving like they're supposed to. Over time, complications develop, such as muscle stiffness and tightness, and there can even be some neurological implications at later stages. We do some specific corrections or adjustments to the spine to help restore proper motion and position of the joints together. I also like adjusting joints outside of the spine, so you'll find some chiropractors who also adjust extremities. So I'll adjust, wrists, ankles, whatever is misaligned that needs to get lined back up.
And what settings are you practicing right now?
So the main setting right now is a very high volume setting. Most days I'll see 50 people or so on my own, but I've had very busy days where I could see up to 80. And it's very, very busy. So, you have to quickly assess and treat people because you have a lot of people waiting for you at any given time. So I'm sure you know how that is.
Yeah.
So I also work in some other settings too, because I actually like to spend a bit longer with patients. So right now I'm working somewhere else in Santa Monica where it's one-on-one private sessions. I'll spend 30, 45, or 60 minutes with the patient, and we do a lot of muscle work. So there's some, myofascial release, maybe some cupping, Graston, that sort of thing to help free up the myofascial junctions. After that, I do some specific adjustments as necessary to the spine or the extremities just to get everything all lined up. We find that these long sessions are really effective and people feel a lot better, and we can get a lot accomplished in a relatively short amount of time.
Right. And so do you then prefer the longer time where you're spending more time with the patient versus the quick go in and out setting?
Oh, absolutely. There's a good feeling that comes with serving a lot of people one day, but it is very draining. I really like to go one-on-one with people because I really like a complex puzzle. And when you have more time, you can really dig into the details and just, find what these original dysfunctions are. And you can really get much more accomplished in a short amount of time.
Right. And what demographics, do you have a specific demographic you're working with, age or what have you?
Not particularly.
Okay.
It's mostly, adults in mid-20s to 50s. But, I have some very geriatric patients there, well up to their 80s or 90s. And, a couple of days ago, I had a 7-month-old baby that I worked on. So it could be all over the board.
Right. Oh, wow. That must have been interesting. The 7-month-old.
Yes, that's very different with the baby.
Yeah. I'm sure the setting was different. What then is some of your challenges you've noticed as a chiropractor?
Well, in the high volume setting, of course, there's just the physical and mental fatigue of working with so many people. Some people really thrive in that kind of setting and love it. I like spending, more time with less people. So that's a less mentally draining for me, at least. So I think a lot of chiropractors I hear, especially in these high volume settings, there's, physical injuries, physical demands. So you have to really, really work on strengthening your body and taking really, really good care of yourself. As many people have echoed already on this podcast, you need to, spend your time doing your physical training. You need to spend your time with your good nutrition, sleeping well, all that stuff just to help stave off the physical nature of the burnout. And then, of course, there's all the ever-changing rules amid the pandemic, which can also be a bit draining too.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm totally there with you. I'm more of a let me spend more time with my patient type of person. So even when I graduated school, even while I was in school, I knew settings like emergency medicine was not going to be my thing. I was like, when I started looking for jobs, I'm like, I'm open to everything but the ER. I don't know. I'm like, you just patch them up and send them off, and it's a much needed setting, right? It's just not for everyone. So that's totally understandable. And as far as your work-life balance, how is that, especially now working with 2 or 3 different jobs and so forth?
Well, lately it's been pretty busy, but I'm, one of my jobs, I'm working on opening a business, and then the other place I'm in Santa Monica, I'm more like closer to a contractor. So I'm also invested in building that business. So a lot of chiropractors, you'll notice, have an entrepreneurial mindset. We've always been kind of different than a lot of other people. And, there's not a huge space we're still alternative care. So we have to kind of, if you want something, you have to create it for yourself. That being said, a lot of people, when they create their own practices, end up are able to do their best possible work. So you just want to set yourself up to do really good quality work. So of course, working on 2 different businesses and working in a high volume setting work-life balance is very, very busy right now. But there are many out there who have been, if you have a well-established practice, I know a lot of chiropractors who are only working about 3 or 4 days a week and living the life of their dreams. So I think there is a lot of potential for very good work-life balance, but a lot of people are also just hungry to serve a lot of people every day. So at some point, you can really have a lot of freedom over what your day looks like.
Right. So it then end up depending on what you want at that stage of your life, right? Because what you're wanting now may not be what you're wanting in 5 or 10 years from now, depending on responsibilities and life and what have you. So it's a great thing that you get to sort of decide that and mold that as you grow and as you develop as a person, which is amazing. what is as a chiropractor, what one thing that is different a lot of time between you as a chiropractor and myself or other healthcare professionals is that you guys are actually using your body to do your work. Like it's a physical work more than it is for us when it's muscle intellectual, making orders, as for me as a PA or maybe an MD or what have you. How do you like that aspect of the job?
For me, that was one of the most attractive aspects of the job.
Yeah.
I actually do really love to use my brain. So, of course,
right.
Being engaged with all the studies, and, I like to read a lot of stuff that, fresh studies that come out. But I've come from an athletic background. I just really like to move. I was always one of those kids who could never sit still for a long time. So, when I saw how active chiropractors are throughout the day, it was really, I just loved that aspect of it. You're moving all day. You have to really work on your athletic abilities. Dexterity, strength, and flexibility, all these things are really important for you to deliver effective treatments. So the better condition you keep yourself in, the better you can actually do your job. And for me, I always want to be healthy. So that's cool. I have to stay healthy in order to be good at what I do.
This is a very odd question, but like, what is the oldest chiropractor practicing chiropractor, right? Because I feel like because you use your body so much, not that, at 60 or 65, when most people are retiring, you are not tired, but you are likely, like everybody else, regardless of what you do, you are lower in energy at that age. So how does that affect that dynamic? I mean, I'm asking you as a decently new grad about senior, so I don't even know if that's an appropriate question, but you are on the field, so maybe you have some insight.
Well, I actually do know plenty of chiropractors who are, well into their 60s or 70s and still practicing. A lot of them simply slow down or see less people, but a lot of them look very healthy and they just take very good care of themselves. Now, a lot of delivering a good adjustment is really just proper leverages and biomechanics. So the better you use your body, the better treatment you can deliver. That being said, I've seen some who, look out of shape, but they still deliver very effective treatments. So they just know how to use their body very efficiently and effectively. So, if people are concerned that maybe they're not, don't have the physical ability to do this job, there are plenty of other techniques and plenty of other ways to adjust people that you'd be very surprised. There's other techniques that are actually very non-physical. We'll talk more about this later, but there's, there are many, many ways to practice chiropractic. Most people will do a very physical style adjustment, manual therapies, but other people will use instruments only to adjust people. There's some specialists who only adjust the very top of the spine. So they are upper cervical specialists. Some of those styles of adjustments or techniques are not very physical at all and require a lot of computer analysis and other instrumentation. So, if I actually, even at my school, we have some teachers who are chiropractors, but they're blind. So there's a lot of space in there for people who, maybe are differently abled to even come in and practice too.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So what are some of the specialties of chiropractic you've seen and for yourself have enjoyed working with, or maybe plan on going into in the future?
Okay, so the one I'm probably the most in right now myself is, a lot of people would consider extremities and a specialty. So I do a lot of extremity adjusting. It's something I just really enjoy to do. There are, as I mentioned before, some people who specialize just in the upper cervical aspect of the spine. They, will just focus on maybe the top or maybe the top two vertebrae. There are chiropractic neurologists who focus heavily on functional neurology. There are even chiropractic internists, which, they may take a little more of a spin on GI/GU stuff, more in terms of diet and supplementation. Of course, it has to be within our scope of practice, but we have a very broad scope of practice, actually. So it leaves a lot of space for these other, specialties to come up. And another big specialty is pregnancy and pediatrics. There are special diplomas and certifications for all that too. Although you don't need them to work with those populations. And I think there's even some who specialize with geriatrics. So there are many, many specialties out there, and a lot of people like to cut out some sort of niche for themselves too.
Right. And what are some leadership and oh wow, I'm forgetting the second word. Growth. That's a word. Let's try it again. What are some leadership and growth opportunities as a chiropractor?
Well, growth is almost inevitable. You know, especially when you practice working on a lot of people, you will always improve your own skills. We of course have to take 24 CEUs every single year. So you will be doing seminars every single year. So hopefully whoever ends up going to these seminars will choose something that interests them. That way you'll continue to learn about advancements in the field. You can also take technique seminars where you can continually refine your style or your adjusting skills. And of course, there's the diplomate programs where you can do I think some of them are 300 hours at least courses where and you can get an additional board certification in some sort of specialty. Now, as far as leadership goes, of course, at the very least, everyone will be a role model of some kind. You have to be a role model for your patients and demonstrate what a good, healthy lifestyle looks like. You're a leader in your community. I know plenty of chiropractors who are very involved in their local communities, coaching sports teams and whatnot. And then, if you many don't work in organizations and just have a private practice, but there are organizations where you can, be a clinic director or something like that. So there are plenty of places where you could be some kind of leader.
Yeah. And how do you personally cope with stress?
Okay, now that's a big answer. The way I see it, there are many kinds of stress. This is something I like to tell a lot of my patients. I usually categorize stress into 3 categories. There's physical stress, mental or emotional stress, and chemical stress. So physical stress, the way I deal with that is I get adjusted once or twice a week. You have to get a taste of your own medicine, of course. For me, that helps my body handle the physical demands of the job. Plus, of course, I spend my time in the gym and, work on my mobility drills and things like that. Mental stress, I like to meditate, spend time outside, try to stay away from too many social media distractions and electronics. I find the more I stay away from that, the more free my mind is. I also like to read just to help de-stress. And when I talk about chemical stress, I mean more environmental and food toxins. I really just try to avoid that stuff as much as I can.
Yeah. Any fun activities? I saw that you're more of an outdoor person. Tell us more about what you do for fun.
I like to spend a lot of time at the beach. There's a lot of beautiful places outside to be here in Southern California, of course. I like to hike and travel. I also am a bit of a foodie, so I like to travel around LA just to find some good places to eat.
That's good. Now, being a former New Yorker, how do you like Cali compared to New York?
Well, the weather's a lot nicer here. I find that the pace of living is, it's a little slower, which is also pretty nice coming from a very hectic place like New York. Of course, there's no place like New York, and it's always going to be the greatest city ever. But LA has a lot of really nice, beautiful things about it too.
How long was your education overall?
Okay, so my chiropractic education was 3 years. Most schools, it takes 3.5 or 4 years to complete the degree. There are some schools, at least, that will have an accelerated track where if you have like a good science background, you can get through the science curriculum a bit faster. So I managed to do all that, and saves me about 6 months of school.
Okay. And last question. What is some word of advice or encouragement for those who may want to become a chiropractor?
Okay, so at the very least, the first thing you should do is just go see a chiropractor as a patient and get adjusted. It's a really unique experience to get this kind of work done. And so, one time you may not really notice much of a difference, but if you at least try it for a couple of weeks just to see how it feels and notice any changes you feel in your body, you find it start to open up all kinds of things you didn't expect. So just, simply getting adjusted is a great place to start. A lot of chiropractors, as some other people have mentioned, will be receptive to, if anyone wants to shadow, feel free to reach out to anybody, or local chiropractors in your community, just to reach out and see if they're willing to let you come and sit in the office for a bit. They can talk to you. It's also always a great idea to contact schools and try to visit them and see if there's any way they can, invite you over just to show you the school or tell you more about chiropractic.
Right. And y'all know that chiropractors are open to talking about the helping you become a chiropractor, because he's here on a Sunday morning doing just that. So thank you so much, Joshua. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you shedding more light on your profession, how you did it, how other people can help, can get there. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. It was, really nice talking to you and meeting you.
Of course. You have a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right. The answer is true. You are, as an angel worker, you are 28 times less likely to have a surgery if you contact a chiropractor first rather than a surgeon. Okay. Thank you all. Have a beautiful evening, morning, day, week, whichever one you're having, depending on when you're listening to this. Ciao. All right. That's all I have for you today. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you. Please subscribe, follow, like, comment, and share. And stay blessed. Bye.